wonderful presentation. I have to share a little bit about this presenter. It is wonderful that I've had an opportunity over the years to communicate with various presenters around the state. It is even greater when you encounter outstanding presenters. Outstanding presenters are the unique presenters. Those are the presenters, when they see you, they will say, I miss you guys. I want to come back. I want to participate in your programming. Or, and this presenter today will say, what do you guys want me to do? Just let me know. That's a unique, outstanding presenter. We have a connection with this presenter, Miss Jannis. We have a history. She's been connected with the center for a couple of years. She is a program manager, health educator at the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services and the Bureau of HIV, STD, Hepatitis. Please welcome Miss Jannis Evans.
Absolutely no pressure, right? Okay. How's everybody doing? Hello, remote sites. How y'all doing? Kansas City. Hello. Miss Tina. How y'all doing? I know I hear y'all breathing. Come on. Okay. What I do, I am with the Bureau of HIV, STD, and Hepatitis. Previously, I had been with the Office of Minority Health. I presented at a MEMA conference a couple of years ago. And the topic that we talked about, when I first said what I wanted to present on, everybody was like, I don't know if you should talk about that. Well, I'm not inside the box by any means on a whole lot of stuff. So today we're just going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some stuff that's very serious, some things that are going on. I'm going to give you my little disclaimer and saying I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not trying to upset anybody, but I'm going to talk about some stuff that sometimes we don't talk about, and we need to talk about it, okay? And I'm not saying that it's a you people and me kind of thing. I'm saying it's a us thing, okay? So it's going to be everybody. It's a little different, and we're going to talk about it anyway, and I want you all to feel free to ask any questions. Like I said in my other presentation, we're going to go by Las Vegas rules, okay? So what goes on in here stays in here as much as it can on the remote, okay? So we're going to talk about that. Don't think that any question is a dumb question. The only dumb question is a question that you don't ask and you don't have the answer to, and you leave with that question, okay? No question scares me. I believe that I've heard a number of things in the work that I do around HIV, STD, and hepatitis. So I ain't scared, okay? That's what I'm going to say right off the bat, okay? So when we talked about what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to kind of go over some of the things that I did before. Previously, I talked about HIV and people who were 50 and older, and I called it Sex and the Senior Citizen. Hot topic, had a lot of fun. So we're going to kind of expand on that a little bit today, and today I'm going to go not only talking about HIV, but we're going to talk about STDs and why seniors are at risk. And I think it's going to be pretty good. So are y'all willing to go this route with me today? Okay. St. Louis, are y'all there? Y'all going to go with me on this one? Yes. All right. Sykes, Central Brothersville, y'all on too? Yeah. Oh, I know y'all ready for that video. I know y'all are ready. Y'all are a little bit warm down there. And we got Central Missouri represented here with a room full of lovely people. We got us a guy, and I think in a couple of places we have some guys. And we're just gonna tear this up today, just for a few minutes, okay? So the first thing I want to just do is a little brief review about HIV and AIDS. So what is HIV? HIV is human immunodeficiency virus. Don't try to write it down. We'll have that information for you, okay? So HIV is a bug that gets into your system that causes your immune system to not work correctly. Pretty much that's what it is. It happens in humans. So it means that if a mosquito doesn't give it to you, you don't get it from a potato chip, you don't get it from anything weird. It's a thing that happens among humans, okay? AIDS is acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Acquired means you gotta do something. So you get HIV, it causes your immune system to not work correctly, and we all know, everybody clear about what your immune system is? That's what fights off all of your diseases, or fights off most diseases. So you get HIV, it causes your immune system to not work correctly, and it results in a series of other illnesses. It may result in you becoming not able to walk. It may affect you mentally, and it may affect your ability to just combat things. It may develop into different types of cancers. So that's what happens. So HIV progresses to AIDS. A person doesn't usually die of AIDS, they die of the complications around the disease. So you may die from a respiratory illness. You may die from something that results in your immune system not working correctly. Some people may have things that happen to them that if they were healthy, their immune system would just knock it off. So a cold for you could be pneumonia for a person who's HIV positive. So a person who's HIV positive has more to fear from a so-called healthy person than you do from a person who's HIV positive. And if you think you don't know somebody who's HIV positive, you're probably wrong. Because some people who are HIV positive are not going to talk about it because people treat them badly. And so you need to keep that in mind. How would you like to be treated? It could be your daughter, your son, it could be you. Okay, it could be you. How do you get HIV? You get it from unprotected sex with the person who's HIV positive. You can get it from exchanging blood with a person who's HIV positive. You can get it from, a mother can pass it to the child during childbirth or during the pregnancy. And you can get it from sharing needles with a person who's HIV positive. Okay? And we go back to the unprotected sex. That's unprotected any kind of sex with a person who's HIV positive. Unprotected oral, anal, and vaginal sex. Y'all still with me? Yeah. All right, let's roll. So how do you not get HIV? Well, the first thing, and I always tell people, is abstinence. If you don't do nothing, you don't get nothing. No brainer. Okay? If you don't do nothing, you don't get nothing. You're on top of it then, okay? However, there are people who decide that they're going to do something. So when you do something, like having sex, then you need to use the next best thing, which would be a latex condom, correctly each and every time you have sex. And not picking and choosing, well, you know, you smell good, so I'm going to go for it this time. Or she looked clean, so I'm going to go for it. We don't care about looking clean and smelling good. Those can be the two things that get you thrown right under the bus, okay? So you just need to know that the only way you can find out and know if you're HIV positive is if you have a test. And I found out today that at Lincoln today, so for my mid-Missouri people, they're having a testing event over in the Student Center. And you can get a free HIV test if you want to. I'm not quite sure what kind of a test it is because there are different types of testing. It may be the 20-minute rapid test, so you could get your result in 20 minutes now. They also have a regular blood test. It takes about a week to 10 days for those results to get back. You can also maybe do an oral swab, and it takes about that long also for your test to get back, okay? HIV is contained in semen, vaginal fluids, breast milk, and blood. Those are the 4 body fluids that HIV is contained in. So it's not in tears, it's not in sweat, it's not in urine, it's in those 4 body fluids, okay? Any questions so far? Are we good? We're going to keep it moving, all right? So, yes, sir.
Why would it not be in urine if it's in the other fluids in the body?
Okay, the fluids that we're talking about, the blood, the semen, the vaginal fluids, those are like kind of direct products of the body. Even though urine is not one where the HIV is concentrated enough in those fluids in order to pass it. The question is, why not urine? And so, HIV has to be concentrated enough in order to pass. And it's not concentrated enough in that particular fluid in order to pass the virus. Okay? Good question.
Thank you.
So, this is my favorite quote. Old sex does not mean safe sex. Okay? Just because you're older and having sex does not mean it's okay. It's not okay. All right? It just isn't. So the good news is that adults between 50 and 90, keeping hope alive, y'all, are having more sex than ever. And the bad news is, and don't get scared, y'all. The bad news is, though, is that there's a rise in HIV, chlamydia, and syphilis and other STDs in that same population. So the more sex you have, the greater your risks are for getting HIV and STDs. All right? And I got some statistics. I usually hate giving them, but I'm going to throw some at you right now. So 80% of people who are 50 and older report being sexually active. I'm pretty good with that. Then it says that people who are 60 and over, at least 60% of them have sex at least once a month. So we're keeping hope alive, still doing that, all right? So, why are older people more at risk for getting STDs? Do we have any ideas on that? Let me give you some pointers. I'm going to point out 4 different things. One is a lack of screening for sexual issues. How many times do you go to a doctor and the doctor says to you, how's your sex life? They're not going to talk to you about that. They're uncomfortable, and equally, I'm going to put some of the blame on some of the people 50 and older, you're not going to tell them because it's your business. Is that what you hear? That's my business what I'm doing. If I got a friend, then that's my business, and I'm not telling anybody. Because maybe your friends might look at you like, girl, what are you doing? Girl, you shouldn't be doing that. You know, people look at you differently when you're an older person and you claim to still be having sex. They don't get it. Don't let them scare you. So they don't want to talk about sexual problems. You don't want to talk about sex or anything, right? It's an uncomfortable topic. I like to say that one of my icebreakers that I usually do when I do groups, and like with women, I usually ask, how old were you when somebody talked to you about sex? What did they say? And who was it? Okay? Is that stirring up anything for anybody? That was not a topic that your parents talked to you about. It was nothing that you discussed. You did not discuss anything about sex. I can remember that the first time I heard my father say the word sex, I had 3 kids and was married and everything by then. I had to call my sister on the phone and say, Daddy said the word sex in front of me. She said, he's never said it in front of me. I said, he only got 2 kids. Okay? But it's something that you don't talk about. You just don't talk about it. It was nothing where you sat down. You would have never had this discussion 20, 30 years ago with somebody like me or anybody standing up in front of a group that of this age group and started to talk about sex. It was like, oh no, we're not talking about that. Okay, so it just doesn't happen. Okay, so now for women, the issue for being more at risk for STDs would be because as we get older for women, our vaginal tissues get a little bit thinner, and then we don't have any natural lubrication anymore, and sometimes it hurts, and it's uncomfortable, and we don't like to do that. And then we have more risk because having sex, it is not an abrasive type of act. So you're rubbing here, you get some action here, and you get tiny tears that are microscopic. And that leaves you more at risk for infections like STDs and HIV. It gives an opening for this disease to get into your body. Okay, does that make sense? Another thing, older people are less likely to use condoms. What do you hear about condoms? What did you know about condoms in your generation? Why did people use condoms? Because they were with nasty people. Am I right? You know, this is something that people did when they went out and were doing something they had no business doing, And that's why they had a condom.
Didn't want to get pregnant.
And right. And again, didn't want to get pregnant. That's a great comment. And so you don't use them now because why? You're not going to get pregnant. So why would you need a condom? Not at all. And then also, your immune system isn't as strong as it used to be. So you don't fight off as much as you used to be. You used to be able to. And that leaves you more open for other illnesses. So that makes a lot of sense to me, all right? Hope it makes sense to you. So now, another reason, people 50 and older are the growing population for online dating. Okay, so all of y'all who have a lot of time on your hands, and you finally figured out what that Facebook thing is, and you finally figured out how to get on that computer, and you finally figured out how to chat with people, and you start going to all these different sites, and then you hit olderpeople.com. Ooh, they only want people 50 and older. Oh, okay, I just met a man on the line. And then you decide, well, heck, he likes old girls. I'm going to try this, you know. So you get to meet people where you're not just confined to your neighborhood, or you're not just confined to your church, or you're not just dependent on your friends to introduce you to somebody in your age group. You can go online and they'll never know who you met. And you go out, you have coffee with this person, and then one thing leads to another, and then there you are in the STD clinic. All right? Now that's for the ladies and for the men. So now we're going to talk about the guys. I love y'all. But guess what you got these days that you didn't have back then? You got Cialis and Viagra. And you have all seen the commercials that after 4 hours, go to the hospital. Am I right? After 4 hours, go to the hospital, something's wrong. Okay, so you have these things that now take care of erectile dysfunction, which could be a cause because of age, or it could be because of medications. And so now, guess what? You got your groove back. You are ready to go out and face the world because why? You got a blue pill and everything is well in the world. Okay? And sometimes you don't care who you're with, you just want to be with somebody because you can do it again. And you're tearing the bottom out of hell and you're taking everybody with you. I'm just saying, all right? We mentioned before, unsafe sex practices. We mentioned that fact about women feel like they can't get pregnant, so hey, we're going for it now. Menopause is over and I can go ahead, I ain't got to worry about nothing stupid. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And guys say, well, you know, I'm not going to use a condom because it's going to interfere with what I got to do. By the time I get this thing on, oh man, I'll miss my window of opportunity. Okay, so we just want to do that. Now, according to the Center for Disease Control, there were 2,500 plus cases of syphilis in 2010. And that's up from 900 cases in 2000. All right? And there were 19,600 cases of chlamydia in 2010, compared to 6,700 cases in 2000. So, yes, ma'am.
Does Medicare cover women's pap smears and so forth every year now?
Now they're going to be doing it. The question is, does Medicare cover women's preventive services like pap smears? I believe with the Affordable Care Act now, that's going to be one of the things.
Because I know that it wasn't.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the things that are going to be covered now under the Affordable Care Act. They have like 7 tests and 7 procedures or 7 things that women can do with women's health now. HIV testing is going to be pretty much free. And then also that, you know, that screenings, well-women visits are going to be taken care of. So that's whatever, Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, Your Mama Care, whatever they call it. That's what's covered under that, okay? So another one of my favorite quotes is, the flower children who were in their 20s back in the 1960s are now in their 70s. They are the make love, not war generation, and old habits absolutely die hard. Okay, so they're not stopping. We're not stopping. We're all over that. So that's one of the things that people are still doing. They don't feel. You have grandmothers who are 50 now, who are, you know, and they're not done. And people are just not done. Not done. And they're going to do what they want to do. And all I'm saying is nobody's passing judgment. Just do it safely. And think about what you're doing. Okay? So now, we're going to talk a little bit about STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. You may hear it referred to as an STI, sexually transmitted infections. Same thing. Back in the day, venereal disease. Same thing. Okay? So there are two types of STDs. There are bacterial STDs and there are viral STDs. All right? Bacterial STDs can be cured through medical regimen. So you can go get a shot and you can, you know, if you do what they say, then you'll be cured of that particular disease. The only way you'll get it again is if you get reinfected, okay? So there are cures for things that are bacterial STDs. Viral STDs, there are no cures for viruses. There's no cure for HIV. There's no cure for the common cold. That is a virus. There's nothing that they can do that will guarantee you that you will never have a cold again. But what they can treat are the things related to it. So if you have a cold, they can treat the runny nose, the itchy eyes, the scratchy throats, all that kind of stuff. But there's nothing that can happen that will guarantee that you'll never have a cold again. Okay, so those are viruses, all right? An example of a bacterial STD would be syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. And we're going to go over those individual diseases in a few minutes. Examples of viral STDs would be my H's, I call them the H's, which would be HIV, hepatitis, herpes. Okay? Those are viruses, and there are no cures for them. So now, we're going to call these STDs, we're going to call them the love bugs. All right, so we're going to talk about the love bugs. I just want to keep y'all interested in what I'm saying. So we're going to talk about the love bugs. So the first love bug we're going to talk about is syphilis. Okay, syphilis is also known as the drip. We'll get to that, all right? So, it's a viral infection. I know this is a lovely conversation before lunch, but hang with me, okay? All right? I'm not going to show any nasty pictures and body parts that ain't right. I'm not going to do that. This time, you have to wait for the meme conference.
Part two.
Yeah, we'll come back for that later. We'll do that at the MEMA conference, okay? We won't do that today before lunch. I'll have to have a little bit more time for that one. So it's a bacterial infection that's caused by an organism that's called a spirochete, okay? It's a little spiral thing. It looks like a spiral under the microscope. I thought I had my little love bug toy with me, but I don't, so we'll be all right. You get it through oral, anal, and vaginal unprotected sex with a person who's infected, and then through intimate touching or kissing. So if you touch a body part that's infected and then touch your eye or something like that, that can cause a transmission for some of these diseases, okay? It takes a week to 3 weeks for the first part of syphilis. Syphilis is usually reported in like 3 different stages. So that first stage is a bump. It's called a chancre, okay? It doesn't hurt. It can be located in your vaginal area, in your private areas, and you don't really feel it. For women, it may be inside. For guys, it might be on the outside. So the guys got the advantage of seeing it and like, whoa, what is that? So if somebody tells you that, oh, I zipped my pants up wrong, no, you better check that out. That may not be the truth. All right? That may not be the truth. That might be a chancre. So that chancre goes away after a while, and you don't think about it because it doesn't hurt, and you don't really feel anything about it.
Is that mouth too?
That could be in your mouth. Yep, it can be in your mouth. She asked, was it could be in your mouth? Yes, it can be in your mouth. Yeah, it's a little weird, but it can be there. Then the next time you might feel something, you might have a rash on your hands and on the soles of your feet. That's going into round 2 of syphilis. And then the third round of it could be loss of your hair. It could be what they call making you blind, crippled, and crazy. Now, just because somebody's a little crazy does not mean they have syphilis. All right, that doesn't mean that. But syphilis can result in these things. It can affect your eyesight. It can affect your ability to walk. It can affect you mentally. It can really start making you do some weird things. Al Capone died of syphilis in prison. He died of syphilis. So syphilis can make you blind, crippled, and crazy. It can also, if you're pregnant, your baby could be born stillborn, or it could have birth defects. And a mom can pass that disease to the baby while she's pregnant. My second love bug is gonorrhea. That's known as the clap. And if you've heard of the clap, that's what that is. That's what people are talking about. They're talking about gonorrhea. Anybody know why it's called the clap? This is a great story. I love it. Guys hate it, but I love it. Anybody got an idea? Any of my sites, anybody got an idea? All right. So I'm going to tell y'all. See, you had an opportunity to do it, now I got to tell you. So back in the day, if somebody happened to be infected with gonorrhea, it was believed that if you took the male's part, if you took the penis, and either put it like on the table there, or put it in your hand and you smacked it. You just smack it with a book, with an anything, bam, bam. They thought that this would cause the discharge to come out and you would be cured. Of course, it was a little bit painful for the guys. That did not work so well. They were not very happy about that cure. So no, that does not work, by the way. So do not try this at home. This is not a great idea. And like I said, you probably couldn't get a guy up to stand still for that. Okay, but that's what it was. So it's a bacterial infection that is spread through semen and vaginal fluids during unprotected sex with a person who is infected. All right? And again, that intimate touching and close physical contact, okay, with a person who's infected. It takes about a week to 1 to 2 weeks for it to actually present or show up in a person. Now, a lot of times there are no real symptoms for some of these STDs, but if a person does have a symptom, because women usually don't show any type of symptoms for this, but if she does have symptoms, she will have a discharge. She will also have frequent urination. She will have pain and burning when she's urinating. She'll have pain in between periods if she's still having periods. In men, there's pain during urination. There's a discharge from the penis, and you can also be infected, again, orally by some of these STDs. And if you have this particular STD in your throat area, you will show no symptoms at all. It would have to be a swab, okay? With this, all partners need to be treated. So if you have this STD, anybody you've had sex with needs to be treated. Why? Because if you don't, you'll be passing this thing back and forth like a bag of potato chips. Not good. Yes, ma'am?
Is it in breast milk?
No. Okay? It is not in breast milk. The question was, is it in breast milk? The answer was no. Okay? So if you don't treat gonorrhea, you can have an atopic pregnancy, which means it's not going to last. You could also end up being infertile for women. You can have some kind of long-term pelvic pain that's associated with this disease. And then for guys, it is painful inflammation of the testicles. So that's not a good thing, not a cute look. One of my favorite ones is chlamydia. Okay? Chlamydia is one of the more common STDs. It's very common among young people. And it's also very common around people who are older. There's absolutely usually no type of a symptom that's associated with chlamydia. It's caused by a germ that infects the genitals, but it can also infect the throat, the rectum, and the eyes. Okay, so if you're infected and you happen to touch a body part, you rub your eyes, gonorrhea is officially in your eyes. It's a very ugly look, it's all pussy, it's all red, it's all closed up. This is before lunch, we'll be all right. Okay, also passed through unprotected sex, unprotected oral, anal, and vaginal sex, sharing sex toys. Are we clear about that? Okay, and touching parts of the bodies with your fingers. All right, usually takes about a week to 3 weeks for it to show up and surface if there are any symptoms. Again, most people have no symptoms at all. But if you do have symptoms, women usually have unusual vaginal discharge. Sometimes ladies just have vaginal discharges anyway, but this is just something that's far beyond your regular discharge. A pain or burning sensation when you urinate, bleeding between periods, and pain or bleeding during or after sex, and low abdominal pains. For men, you get a cloudy white discharge, and there's a pain or burning sensation during urination, and then there's also testicular pain or swelling, Again, all partners need to be treated. You need to be treated because, like I said, you'll pass it around like a bag of chips. You go back and forth, you keep reinfecting each other. Okay, it can be cured through medication. And the only way that you'll get it again is if you're reinfected. All right? If you keep getting reinfected, somebody needs to have a light bulb moment. Somebody's not doing something right. Somebody's having sex with somebody else. Somebody else is in your mix. All right? If it's untreated, chlamydia can result in pelvic inflammatory disease for women, which means you can end up being infertile. For guys, you can be sterile. It'll do irreversible damage to your body, and it'll leave your body open to other infections. All right? Any questions so far? Isn't this fun, y'all? Oh my God, this is so much fun. Okay, so now we're going to some viruses. We're going to go to herpes. It's also known as herpes simplex virus. You may see it listed as HSV. All right, that is what it is. It's a viral infection, and with that disease, you have periodic outbreaks of painful blisters and sores. People say that it's horrible. You have these little bitty blisters that appear on your vaginal and penile parts, and these things are you just want to scratch, and they cluster and they're there for a while. Okay. What causes them is, again, a virus, but sometimes stress will cause an outbreak of this disease, sometimes sunburn, some seasonal extremes can be a reason that you can have a herpes outbreak. And so there are two kinds of herpes. There's herpes 1 and herpes 2. I like to think of herpes 1 as being a above the waist disease. Herpes 1, we'll talk about that. And herpes is usually transmitted sexually, and it's a skin-to-skin contact. What does that mean? Even if you were using a condom and somebody had herpes, if they had a herpes sore that was outside of the area that a condom covers, guess what? You can have that herpes sore. So if that herpes sore is on the mouth, if that herpes sore is like on the right above of your vaginal area, and you come in contact with a person who has herpes, just a skin contact can cause you to have that disease. So that's one of those cases where having a condom does not even matter. Just depends on where that sore is. All right. So herpes 1. Herpes 1 usually shows up as some really common things like a fever blister or a cold sore. That's herpes. Now, that's not saying that that's sexually transmitted. That's not saying that somebody did something, but that is herpes, a cold sore. Some people are just prone to having those when they get a cold. Doesn't mean that they've been doing anything really different. It just means that they have herpes 1. All right? Herpes 2 is my below the belt disease. So that shows up as the burning sensation in your genital area. You might have low back pain, pain when you're urinating, and flu-like symptoms. Then the red bumps will appear around your genital area or on the mouth. Then they become blisters, and eventually they'll crust over, they'll form a scab, and then they'll heal. But you can transmit herpes even when you don't have that outbreak. So, be careful if any of those things come. And if those things happen, go to your doctor. A lot of times people in certain age groups like to self-medicate. Okay? You cannot go and get some Aleve and this is going to be okay. You cannot go to get you something to rub on it and it's going to be okay. Go to the doctor. If anything is going on with your body that is not usual, go to the doctor. All right? And there's no cure for herpes or any other viral infection. There is not. So now that I've given you all of this great stuff, what do you do? What are you supposed to do about that? So first thing I'm going to do is to recommend that you know your partner. Who have you decided to share these moments with? Do you know who that person is for real? Is the handyman at church really a little too handy? Okay? Are his odd jobs really odd? Can you think about that for a minute? Usually older people may have several partners. What does that mean? Fellas, I'm not trying to bash y'all, but an older gentleman in a senior citizen building is gold. He is the rooster in the hen house. He's got it going on. He can get a hot plate 7 days a week from 7 different women. And it's okay.
We take away his Viagra.
Right? We'll make him use his Viagra. Or not. Or the idea that maybe he will. You know, but you get that. That's what happens. And you know, people literally, I've had some horror stories about women fighting over men in the senior building. Come on, y'all. Really? Anyway, but it's true, right? I'm trying to talk the truth here. I'm trying to say this is what happens. So, he has the ability to have more than one partner. All right? He has the ability of having more than one partner. And ladies, some of y'all are a little hot. Y'all might have more than one partner too. Okay, I'm not letting you guys off. But you need to know that. You need to limit the number of partners that you're going to have. You need to avoid the exchange of body fluids. What does that mean? Using a condom each and every time and using it correctly. Now, we're not going to go into a condom demonstration today, but we're going to look forward to that during the MEMA conference, okay? We're going to do condom demonstration that's going to literally be hands-on, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to really play with this, all right? Yeah, we're going to have fun, all right? You're going to practice some good hygiene, all right? Clean up. Don't be offensive. Take care of your business, all right? I need you to see your doctor for medical checkups at least once a year. At least once a year. And also ask, if you're going to be sexually active, please ask for an STD screen. If the doctor doesn't ask, you ask. Mention that you want an STD screen. Mention that you want an HIV test. Also, ladies, just because you can't get pregnant anymore does not mean that you should not have a GYN checkup. You should not. You should. Please continue to have your pap smears. Continue to have your GYN checkups, okay? Again, get an HIV test at least once a year. They're free, so the price is right. Again, we talked about the types of HIV tests they have. You can get your results in 20 minutes. And it's okay. You can get your results because if you can tell somebody what your blood pressure is, what your cholesterol is, what your heart rate is. You can tell somebody what your HIV status is, all right? And you can do that, and you can do it confidently. And if you tell somebody, I need for you to get an HIV test, guess what? The results, they will give you a printed copy. You don't want somebody to say, oh yeah, I had an HIV test, and you find out they had that test in 1984. Really? I want you to have an HIV test at least last week. I want you to have it within the last month or so. How often should you get a test? It depends on how active you are. You know, you can have it twice a year. So if you can get your ears pierced, you can get a little prick on your finger. If you're doing diabetic testing, you get a little prick on your finger because that's how that rapid test works. It's just like a diabetes test. You get a prick on your finger, they take that much little bit of blood, and they can determine what your HIV status is, okay? They're not trying to pull all your blood out. You cannot get HIV infected by getting an HIV test, all right? So just so you know that. And again, I'm going to stress that you talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor. No rash, no bumps, no swellings should be taken lightly. It should not. You should be able to talk to your doctor, mention these things, and let them know what's going on. Okay? My next favorite quote, in closing, kind of like, is to say, you never have to retire from sex, but you should always behave as the 20 and 30-year-olds do. You need to be cautious. All right? You need to be cautious. You need to think about what it is you're doing. You need to not put yourself at risk. Can I get some questions from anybody, everybody, somebody? Y'all know everything? Yes, ma'am. I got a question here.
You talked about what herpes looks like, I believe, only on females. What about on men? I've heard that
it looks the same. They still have those little, oh, she wanted to know what does herpes look like on men. It looks the same. Those little bumps, don't care where they show up, on who. So yes, those little bitty cluster bumps. And they hurt like heck. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Anybody else?
Louis, we have a question in St. Louis.
I got you. Give it to me.
HIV virus, or can it lay dormant? And what would be the phase if it did?
Okay, HIV never is dormant. It's constantly working, okay? But the bottom line is that you may not see any bodily changes in your body or the way it feels because there are no real symptoms for it. So usually it can be, after you're infected, you can go for 7 to 10 years and not know that you're infected. It's
Right.
only
So
when your
you
system...
still would know. They wouldn't pick that up?
I'm sorry?
Even if you took a test, they still couldn't pick it up?
Yes, it would show up in a test. But if you were a person who did not test regularly or go to your doctor, you need to also know that you cannot assume that because they're drawing blood, they're doing an HIV test. You usually have to request that an HIV test be done. But yes, it can show up as early as a week to 6 weeks after you've been infected. It can show up then in your body. But if you don't go to the doctor for whatever reason, you wouldn't know. And it could be in your body for at least 7 to 10 years without you even having a clue that you're HIV positive. In fact, there are like over 1 million people in the United States who are infected with HIV, and about 1/4 of them do not even know that they're infected. And so when you hear somebody gave somebody HIV, that does not mean they did it on purpose. They may not know what their status is.
What about genital warts? You didn't mention those at all.
Okay, I did not mention genital warts. Somebody asked about genital warts. I did not mention that. But genital warts is another. It is something that is reoccurring as an STD. It appears in clusters sometimes. So sometimes you might have something that kind of looks like cauliflower growing out of stuff. The only way that they can get rid of that is to either freeze them off or burn them off with lasers. And sometimes they will still reoccur.
Can they pass them on to their children?
during childbirth, it is possible. She wanted to know if that can be passed on to children. It is possible during childbirth. Yes, ma'am.
Herpes, the upper body, I guess, is, I mean, the same rules apply to the lower body and the upper body, but if you know somebody has cold sores, how, you know, nail biters and pencil eraser chewers, what can you, I mean, how do you protect yourself?
She wants to know how do you protect yourself with a person who may have like herpes 1 above the wrist, above the waist. I would just suggest not kissing, making sure that contact, if they have, let them please hand them your what is that stuff, the hand sanitizers or whatever, because you still don't want to have that risk. You don't want that contact, because it is a skin-to-skin contact. You know, you don't want to run from them, but you don't want to put yourself in danger. I'm having a personal moment. All right. Are there any other questions? Well, I really thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate you listening, and I look forward to seeing you guys again at the MEMA conference. If you have any questions, I do believe that you have my number, and I'm going to probably give some information that will be sent to the sites for you. And if you need any additional information, or if you have anything that you may want me to come to, talk to anybody, I'm available. Just let me know. I'm at your service. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming out and folks.
Jannis, do you do presentations in churches?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I sure do. I love doing churches. Okay.
I want to thank you all for participating again today and taking a chance to ask your questions, because our goal here today is to help you basically make informed, healthy decisions about your health. Please join me in a round of applause one more time. At this time, we have some announcements that I will announce, and following that, we will have our door prizes selections. Our upcoming Lunch and Learns will be April the 24th, 2013, will be for Minority Health Month. That information, of course, is on your agenda. And our last upcoming Lunch and Learn will be May the 29th, 2013, and it is, of course, in honor of Older Americans Month, and also it is National Senior Health and Fitness Day. And of course, the theme, I have to say this, for Older Americans Month is unleashing the power of aging. So we look forward for your attendance for both of those upcoming events. At this time, this is the conclusion of our Lunch and Learn. If you need any additional information, please feel free to contact the Paula J. Carter Center. Our phone number is at the very top. It is 573-681-5530. If you would like to talk to Ms. Jannis Evans, her phone number is also on the agenda, 573-522-9071. Thank you for joining our Lunch and Learn today. It is now time for our lunch, and we will start disconnecting from our sites. Let's go in the reverse. Since Kansas City has the baddest weather area, let's start with Kansas City. Bye, Kansas City.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's move to St. Louis.
Okay. Thank you, and we had fun. And quite sure we're going to be talking about this for a little while, leading up to the MEMA conference.
Absolutely.
We should have MEMA.
Would you say that one more time?
I said we should have many more questions for you all during the MEMA conference.
Thank you. I am glad that there were some questions asked today. So I think there will be many more questions regarding this sensitive subject matter. All right. Let's keep it moving. Sykeston.
Thanks. The speaker was real good, kept everybody interested, and we'll be looking forward to the meeting.
All right.
All right, come on now.
Carruthersville. We're going to disconnect. Do you have any comments or questions or at this time? We're disconnecting.
No questions. The ladies really did enjoy the presentation. It was a wonderful speaker.
Thank you. Well, didn't she